Right. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode with your boy Franklin. So today, the title is self-explanatory. I've got a guest with me. For those of you that have been watching content before now, you recognize this wonderful woman, Mrs. Lakwe Adeoti. She was the one that came to talk about the setting up poultry business back home in Africa, Nigeria to be precise. If you haven't seen that video, go check it. So she's with us today to discuss about effective blueprint for financial security, creative wealth principles, aimed at us, you know, diasporans. It's not really a group of people specific, but of course, because this is for us. So hopefully we'll learn from it. Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Franklin, for another opportunity, privilege again to come and speak with your audience. I do really hope that we find this valuable, and we're all here to learn. I'm sure a lot of what I'll be sharing, they're not new stuff, they're old stuff. Some of us might have already known all this, and some might be in the middle, and some might be hearing them for the first time. I just want to encourage each and every one of us to keep an open mind. Right. There's always one of the things to learn. Okay, as Franklin have said, my name is Lakwe Adeoti, and I'll just introduce myself that way, simply Lakwe Adeoti. So this evening, I want to be sharing with you some of the effective blueprint that we can apply to achieve our financial security, and also share some creative wealth principles that we could use in our day-to-day living that could ensure us, arriving at that financial freedom. I will be using interchangeably the word financial security, financial freedom, financial independence. It all means the same thing. The basic thing is having financial freedom. That is, have more than what you need to meet your daily needs.
Right.
So, money is a form of security.
Right.
Actually, and there's such a thing as financial freedom. Not everybody struggles through life. Obviously, this evening, what we'll be discussing will be in terms of money. Because when I use the word value, somebody can be a valuable brother, a valuable dad, a valuable mom. But we're talking about valuable in terms of money. All right. So, your financial freedom is actually not a product of the economy.
Right.
It is not a product of your background. Actually, it's not a product of chance or luck. And it is not a product of your income. When I say it is not a product of your economy, I'm sure even with this COVID, there are people that are, making money.
Yeah.
Despite what's happening. And when I say it's not a product of chance or luck, it's a study. You have to make a decision. It's not something that happens accidentally. And when I say it is not a product of your income, we've also seen people who have earned 100,000, over 100,000 yearly, and they end up being broke. While some earn 20,000, 30,000, and they achieve the financial freedom. And that is why I said it's not a product of your income as well. And also, it is not a product of your background. It does not matter where your background is, whatever your background is. It's about your mindset, about your belief. We heard people that are called the dandelion kids, that is kids that have grown up from unthinkable background, and they've ended up being successful in their lives. So that is why I said it is actually not a product of your background as well. So in case any of the audience is thinking, oh, the economy, my income, or my background, financial security is not a product of any of this. Your financial freedom actually begins with making a decision. And a decision has to be made, whether you want to embrace the habits of having that financial freedom. And guess what? Not making a decision is actually a decision also.
Absolutely.
So, I agree. Or I'm just living life, drifting along. You've actually made a decision not to be financially free. And the truth of the matter is that regardless of your circumstances or the decision you have made, you will eventually gravitate towards the direction of the decision you have, knowingly or unknowingly. That is the decision you have made, whether you want to be financially free or whether you have not made a decision, which is also a decision, you will gravitate towards either of these. So, and I want to submit to us this evening that financial security, it is not so much about having money as it is knowing what to do with it. Because, I mean, almost all of us are working, doing 9 to 5 and earning money. So money passes through our hand. But if we lack the wisdom to know what to do with money, then we will end up being broke. So the security of money is nothing if you do not have the security of wisdom.
Right.
I hope we get that clear. And don't be under any illusion. We live in a universe that is governed by laws. And one of those laws is the law of cause and effect. That is, to every cause, there's an effect. And for every effect, there's also a cause. Therefore, financial security, as I said, is not an accident. It is a result of specific actions. Each person is unique and different from others. We all need a blueprint of what works for us. Well, we may borrow one initially, just like what we're doing this evening. We're sharing information, we're learning. But ultimately, you have to make that blueprint your own, because everybody have different goals, different vision, what they want to achieve in terms of their financial freedom. And eventually, whatever it is that we have borrowed, we have to then begin to work on it, review it, adjust it to fit our own goal. The fun part of it is that regardless of where we are, we can start today, now. It does not matter where you are in the spectrum of the financial freedom journey, you can start today. So with this understanding, I would like to share a few tips that will be valuable to us on our journey towards financial freedom. And I want us to note that everything I'll be sharing with you this evening, I will be sharing from practical aspects, not theoretical. These are things that I've practiced myself, and I know it does work. These are things that have been practiced by people that are associated with me, that have attended, my financial literacy seminar, and it's worked for them. So I'm not sharing from theoretical. These are things that have worked, and if you put it into practice, it will work for you. It's the guarantee, because it works for so many. So definitely it will work for you as well. So the first tip is we have to give ourselves a reason. You have to have a why. We need a reason for everything we do in life. The stronger the reason, the stronger our commitment to it. Our reason will be a combination of what we want and what we do not want. That is what we want in life, and also what we do not want in life. Because we need to have that understanding of what we do not want, not just what we want. Without a solid reason, life can be hard, especially this diaspora that we're all in. The system is designed to take it all.
Absolutely.
The system, just the way it is designed to take it all from us, not to have anything. And if you have been in diaspora for a while, you will notice that as you make the money, the bills are already lying up to take it back from you. And it's like a circle. Just like Phrankleen have explained to us about 2 weeks ago, it's a circle. And you find out that the money comes in, the money goes out, it comes in, it goes out, and hardly will you have anything left. So we have to devise means to make sure that the system does not take everything from us. And if you're not awakened to these principles or these habits or these tips, you will find out that 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years down the line, you will be asking yourself, how did I get here? And unfortunately, it might be too late then, because we are all growing, although we are not the same age that we came into the system. And a lot of us have actually come in our late 20s, for me, we came in late 30s. Early 30s. Some people came in early 40s. So is already a raise. I don't want to use negative word, that is more or less like you're already behind because you're starting from ground zero. So we need to have effective blueprints to make sure that this system does not take everything from us. So 2 things that we have to consider, that is 2 reasons we have to consider. We must have a reason that is greater than our reality. That is, whatever you want to achieve in terms of your financial security, don't base it just on the circumstances that you find yourself now. Because you're more than where you are now. That is the truth of it. You have the capability. You have the potential. It's just that some of us have not harnessed this potential, this capability, or even become aware of it. So our reason has to be greater than our reality. You have to see beyond where you are. Because if you judge yourself by where you are, you will be stuck. And as I said, years will roll by and we wonder, how did I get here? What have I done? And we know our people back home. Not that we're living because of what anybody will say, but they counted the years for you. You will even count it for yourself. There's an adage in Yoruba language that you have to say the truth to yourself. Look at the mirror and say the truth to yourself, even if nobody's telling you the truth. And this is what will happen. The reality that you have to tell yourself in 10, 15, 20, or 30 years' time. So the second quality for our reason has to be, the second quality is that our reason has to be greater than ourselves. That is, don't just look at, okay, let's say for now, I'm earning £20,000 per year. No, you can earn more. It's called by adding value to yourself. So let it be greater than where you are. Let it be greater than your reality. The truth of the matter is that for every pound, every dollar that comes into your hand, you can choose the power towards financial freedom or towards being broke. Every pound, every dollar that comes into your hand, or naira for the Nigerian audience, you can choose the power towards financial freedom or being broke. And unfortunately, a lot of us choose the journey towards being broke without realizing it, without giving it a thought or thinking that there's still more time. So the first reason, as I've said, is the first tip is give yourself a reason. The second tip is you have to discipline yourself. If you cannot get control of yourself, you will squander whatever it is that you're trying to put aside. And it will bring a lot of heartache. Can you imagine putting, like £100, monthly, just putting it in one savings account? Maybe after a year, you have 1,200. But because of lack of discipline, you followed a friend to, shopping mall or something, and within a twinkle of an eye, you've spent 1,000.
It's all gone, yeah.
And then you get back, a week after, you're like, oh, you have to start the journey all over again. It can be frustrating, it can be depressing.
Yes.
It will create heartache.
I agree.
Even if you gather the momentum, start all over again. And unfortunately, again, this is what happens to some people. So discipline is the number one factor that separates the rich and the poor. That is those that have financial freedom and those that end up being broke. Discipline is number one factor. And embedded in this discipline is delayed gratification. So 2 key areas in which we need to discipline ourselves: our spending habits and our learning habits. When I mean our spending habits, we need to take control of what we spend our money on. And our learning habit, just like we're doing this evening, we are all learning. Willingness to learn, willingness to know how things work, not being shy to say, I don't know how to go about this, but I'm willing to learn. Because the truth is that if your money is smarter than you will work for it all your life and it will push you around. But we have to be smarter than our money. When you're smarter than the money, it will work for you all year round because it's meant to be our servants anyway. But guess what? Money actually loves those that treat it exactly the way its assignment is, which is a servant that it is. But if you let it smarter than you. You will work for it all your life because you keep earning it, you keep spending it, and then going back to square one, and the struggle continues. So discipline ourselves is the third tips. The fourth tips is we have to protect our assets and capital.
Yeah.
And how do we process our capital and our asset? Because somebody might say, I don't even have any asset, I don't even have any capital. You know what? You actually have. Because the tools of your earnings, they're actually your assets and your capital. And I'm sure for a lot of us on this platform today, we have our salary. Even if you have lost your job during the COVID, at least prior to that, you were earning a salary. For most people in diaspora, that is a tool of your learning. Is the egg that laid the golden egg, because that is where you will start from. And how do we ensure that our salary work well for us? We have to realize that it is a money-making tool. Therefore, we must be able to turn part of our income, that is part of our salary, into capital. That is putting something aside. Because it is those capital that you will then turn into investments. But if you spend everything that you earn, then you're not able to keep anything aside to serve as your capital. Because you need to have capital to be able to invest into the assets that will then generate returns for you. So, for example, if I'm putting £100 every month, and that is where we start from. I'm not just using £100 from somewhere. That is where we started from when we came into this country. We started putting £100 somewhere, in the savings account, and then use it later to buy shares, and then gravitate into buying bonds. So you have to start from somewhere, even if it's £50 that you can put aside. Even somebody say, "Oh, you know how my expect." Even if it's £20, it's just about starting. Greater is an advantage of a start, starting from where you are. Honestly, even if it's £10 you could put aside, start from somewhere to make sure you're not using all your 10 fingers to eat.
Yeah.
You're not. So that is the third tips. Every money that is in your hand, if you do not have any plans for it, trust me, something will always come up to take that money from you. Money doesn't like idleness. It does not enjoy idleness. If you put it a place, something will always come up. Either something you want to buy yourself, impulse buying, or something coming up, or a relative, or family, or something. But if the money already has a name, it has a name. They said the money that has no name is the hidden money that can be used frivolously.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to have plan to protect our earning tools, which is our salary in this case. The fourth tip is that we need to invest wisely. I always believe that you need to learn before you dabble into things. We need to try and not go after a get-rich-quick schemes. Because to actually build wealth, it's a process. I know some people do win lottery, and other, or an inheritance that come, that's exceptional cases. But normal situation, it's a process. So you have to start and gradually build on it. You have to beware of charlatans. One is like a very large profit, or somebody putting pressure on you. Oh, no, you've got to do it. You need to sign. No. Because if you go into an investment casually, you will end up being a casualty, and you will bear the brunt. Because you don't want to take all the effort, all the energy to save money, and then realizing that somebody, because of your own, sorry to use the spirit of greediness, because when you look for quick scheme, there's also an element of spirit of greediness in you that wants quick returns, and then you end up losing what you have labored hard to put aside. So we have to make sure that our investment decision is in line with our goals, our vision, and terms. I always tell people, we need to decide how you want to live now versus how long you want to work. And that will lead to take an action by investing into the financial future now and live a better tomorrow. And I will explain what I mean by decide how you want to live now versus how long you want to work. So say for instance in Britain, I think the retirement age is 65, and I think 2 or 3 years time it will be moved to 67. So me, for instance, whenever my husband, we know that no way we'll be doing 9 to 5 to that age. But guess what? If you don't do anything, if you just say, oh, I don't want to work 65 up to 65, 7. If you refuse to do anything, trust me, you will be on that train, on that bus, 207 or 53. At that 57. So since we know that, okay, that is not what we want. So how long do we need to work? What do we need to do? That we have more than enough resources to still be able to maintain the kind of lifestyle that we want to live, even if we're not doing 9 to 5 again. But if we just leave it to drift, along and think we can, talk about that later or plan on it later, trust me, 65 years will come and you find out that you still don't have much because you cannot rely on the system. Guess what the system will plan for you? Not much.
Of course.
You cannot rely on your employer. Guess what they will plan for you? Not much. You're the person that needs to take that responsibility and plan for yourself. So that at the end of the day, whatever the government or the employer is giving you is an addition. Is an addition to what you already planned for yourself. Okay? I hope that is very clear.
Absolutely.
So those are the tips. Those are the tips towards financial security. Now, I want to share some of the creative work principles. That is the principle we can actually use in our day-to-day living that we ensure we arrive at this financial security that we all want. The number one principle is to be able to differentiate assets versus liability. And as Robert said very simply, asset is whatever it is that puts money into your pockets. Liabilities is whatever takes money out of your pockets. I will say it again. Anything that puts money in your pocket is an asset. Anything that takes liability out of your pocket, money out of your pocket is a liability. And I know, for instance, now I've got mortgage, my house is a liability. And I do understand some of us say, yeah, it will still go in equity, capital and all that. But for now, it's taking money out of my pockets. So it's a liability until then that it turns into an asset then. But for now, it is a liability. All right? So with that understanding of asset and liability, I will begin with the other principles. The second principle is you make money grow by putting it to work for you. How do you make money grow? By putting it to work for you. I've talked about money being your salary, being your earning tools. So if you have been putting the money aside, it's not enough for you to just put it aside, as in into a savings account. And I know saving interest is really low. We need to have the understanding of power of inflation, because if we just put the money aside, it will erode the value of that money. And what it will be worth, let's say in 5-10 years time, if you just keep it as cash, it will not be the same thing that is what might be lower in value. So we need to make sure that we're putting our money to work for us. And what are the ways we can put our money to work for us? By investing into assets. And there are different asset classes. But I will just share 4 that me, myself, and my family invested. As I said, we started with putting £100 aside. So we started with buying shares. And what do you gain by buying shares? You get dividends. Because by putting those money to work for you, you're building streams of income apart from your salary. Your salary is your earned income. So buying into shares, we earn dividends. Sometimes, not all the time, shares will also appreciate in value. For somebody that bought, Amazon 10 years ago, compared to now, is appreciating values. Another asset class is then bonds. Like if you're in Nigeria, federal government bond, they just finished Sukuk recently. Here, you could also put your money into bonds as well. Euro bonds, euro dollar bonds. They will pay you interest on those capital that you have put in there. Other things you could put your money, you could actually start a business. As I said, I'm using myself as an example. So I invest in shares and stock. I invest into bonds, and I also have business. So I'm earning profits apart from the dividend from the shares and stock, the interest from the bonds, then business, I earn profit as well. And the fourth asset class that you could also put your money into is the real estate, which I do as well. So that gives you the opportunity to also earn rental incomes. So apart from the salary, the earned income, there are other four assets, 4 streams of income that money will be coming in. Because, like Warren Buffett said, it is too dangerous to rely on just one income. And somebody out there might be saying, oh, where will I start? You just have to start from where you are. I said we started with just £100 every month, and it grows from there. The third principle is money is actually a tool to reach your dream. Don't give it too much importance. As I said, it's a servant. We should never allow money to rule us. That is, whatever it is that we're doing, we should realize it's simply a tool. It's simply a tool. You could use it, to enjoy life, to meet needs. Is a tool. It should never be a life and death. As in, is either do or die. No, it's simply a tool to reach your dream, to your goal. The next principle is that to be financially successful, we have to learn the language of money. What are the languages of money? I've talked about assets. I've talked about liability. I've mentioned stocks. I've mentioned shares. I've mentioned dividends, interest, return on investment, profits. All these are languages of money. We need to understand them, how they work, so that they can work for us. It's just like somebody going into a foreign country. Fine, we thank God, UK, we speak English in this country. But let's say you go to a place like German where they don't speak. You have to learn the language to be able to interact with them. Same thing with money. You need to understand the language of money so that you could know how to put it to use. The next principle is you are the CEO of your life. Financial freedom is your responsibility. It's nobody's responsibility. As I've said, no organization, no government will plan so much for you. You need to take that responsibility and work towards it. It is not something you delegate to others to do for you. The next principle is it is not how much money you make that is important. It is how much money you keep. As I've explained earlier, somebody can be earning 100,000 and end up be broke, while somebody earning 30,000 is towards financial freedom. So how much are you able to keep from what you earn? You must be able to separate your needs to your wants. Priorities. All right? So the next thing is financial success comes from managing risk, not avoiding it. Again, one of the language of money, risk. Some of us are risk averse, some are risk takers. But whether you're risk averse or risk taker, life itself is a risk. Waking up daily is a risk. So there's an element of risk that comes with investing. some of those investments, you could actually take calculated risk. That is what we ensure that you don't lose money. So say, for instance, you have invested into bond by federal government or Bank of England. That's a calculated risk, because you know that for you to lose your money, that means there will be no central bank or there will be no Bank of England. And we know that for there not to be Bank of England, for there not to be central bank, then that means the country must have, there will be no country. So that's a calculated risk. Another thing is, don't put all your financial egg into one basket. You have to diversify your portfolio. I've explained to you the 4 streams of income where we earn from. That's diversifying our portfolio. I've said that the next principal asset feeds you. That is whatever brings money into your pocket. Liability eats you. Also, the next principle is, it is better to tell your money where to go than ask it where it went. So every end of the month, take control, be in charge. Don't finish spending your money and wonder, where did all this money go? No. Be deliberate with your earnings. The next principle is that financial freedom is your choice. As I've said, it's a decision you have to take. It's your choice. You have to make a choice. You have to choose it, that I want to be financially free. Myself and my household wants to be financially free. If you don't choose it, then you're just going to live day in, day out without any plan. The next principle is, interest is only interesting when you're receiving it. Interest is only interesting when you're the person is receiving it. So when you invest, say into bond, into stocks, you're the one receiving these streams of income. But if you're paying interest on liabilities, it is not okay. It's okay to pay interest on assets. So say, for instance, you've borrowed money to invest in a business generating return on investment for you. So it's fine, because you have invested that money into an asset. But if you take your credit card, for instance, you went shopping, to buy clothes, shoes, and then the bills come, you're paying interest, from your salary. That is not okay. All right?
Yeah.
And the last principle is that people don't plan to fail. They simply fail to plan. You do not plan to fail. Nobody wakes up and go like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm just going to wind up broke at 60, 70. But it's just that you have failed to plan. And when you don't have a plan, you will be drifting along. People will bring their plans into you, and you will just, godly, play along, because you have no plan of yourself. Actually, those principles, they're actually from one of my books that I've written, but I'm just sharing those 12, just for us to save time. So those are the principles. There are 5 areas that we need to manage towards our financial security. I've talked about our income, our salary, what we need to do with it. I've mentioned our expenses. That is, you must be able to separate your needs and your wants, to embracing that delayed gratification. You need to save, because you have to start from somewhere, putting money aside before you can then invest.
Sorry, forgive me. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you expatiate a bit on that delayed gratification?
Okay. So delayed gratification is actually one of the number 1 principle of success. Let's say now, I'm just going through, online, and I see this, Lexus Jeep, and I know that my credit rating is fantastic. If I get into, Toyota, any of the Lexus dealer, all I need, 10%. Let's say it's 40,000 pounds. They will ask me for 10% to put down, which is just 4K, and I've got 4K in my account that I can put down. And I really want to, feel cool. Some you want to oppress. You want people to know that you have arrived, man. So you're not thinking deep. You're just looking at that 4K. You're not thinking of the remaining 36,000, which is the capital. And then maybe that will be spread for 5 years with the interest, which might then end up being 45,000 on top of that 4K that you have paid. But because of that's to quest my satisfaction now, I decided to go ahead and buy the, sign on and get the Lexus Jeep. However, if I want to practice delayed gratification, yeah, I love the Lexus Jeep, beautiful. And I've got this 4K. Then I'm thinking in my head, what can I put this 4,000? Not just 4,000, maybe I've got some other extra cash. What can I put this money into that will yield me income? And by the time I'm buying the car, the income coming from that one of that streams will actually be paying for the car rather than me paying for my salary. Do you get the difference?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, by the time you invest the money, obviously that might take another 1 year or 2 years before you start to see, the streams of income. Let's say you invest into a business, and then 2 years after you went to still get the Lexus, but then it's the business that is servicing the loan on the Lexus. So you have actually, delay for 2 years rather than you rushing into that decision and then needing to begin to use your salary to satisfy the monthly expense of that car. So that's an example of delayed gratification. I hope that is clear. And that is not just car; it applies to every other. Actually, what I do mostly is whenever I have such a big purchase I want to make, I'm thinking what assets can be bought or can be invested into that will actually serve this purpose. And not just even buying, let's say, for example, my council tax, which is about 265. I'm thinking, okay, what can be done that I don't actually have to be coughing at this 265 every month for my salary? And one of the things we came up with, okay, actually, I've got 2 boys, in university, including my daughter at home. Okay, there are rooms. There's SS room. Why not take, foreign students? They just come to stay 2-3 days. Whatever is coming in can actually, be taking care of those council tax, provisions and all that. That is us turning part of our property into an asset rather than it being full liability. And I do appreciate not everybody wants people living in their, in the space. But for us, just me and my husband, and my little girl, the 3 rooms are there empty. The boys, coming from uni in a year, they're not coming no more than 2 months, 2 weeks, and then so why do I want to leave, vacant? At least let us have that purpose until the mortgage is fully paid off. Then so that's an example of a delayed gratification. The fifth area, I've talked about the income, salary, the expenses, savings and investment. The 5th area is debt management. We know the way the system works. Hardly is anybody there that does not have, one debt or the other. For me, when we came into the system, most of us bought into the idea that you have to be in debt and take the credit and loan and other to build your credit rate. And a lot of us, we did that. And the truth is that once you get one, then you then carry on that mode, one after the other. It becomes like a chain of cycle going on. The last time I canceled my credit card now since 2011, I don't use credit card.
Fantastic.
If I cannot afford it in cash, that means I cannot afford it at all. If I cannot afford it in cash, I cannot afford it at all.
Financial trap.
At least anything that is liability, if I cannot afford it in cash, I cannot afford it at all. That's it. I have a write-up, in my house. If you cannot afford it in cash, you can't afford it at all. So the kids, everybody knows that. And that's one of the, the principles that you could start. And you find out that because you'll be using cash a lot to do things. When I mean not necessarily carrying cash, as in your debit card, which the money would be taken out immediately from your account. You will be paying more than the credit card. So if you can't afford it in cash, you can't afford it at all. So don't fall into the trap that you have to be in debt, that you have to, be in on credit card and all that before you can do anything. You could begin to know that you don't have to follow that trend. And I do understand sometimes, like you travel to US, you want to rent a car, you cannot, they don't accept debit card. So my husband has got debit card. And so for such a trip, we use that, but you make sure that you're paid immediately before the bills comes in. So you're not piling up credit card debts or loan and all that. There's nothing wrong in having debts. There's good debt, there's bad debts. Any debt on liabilities, they're bad debts, or consumer stuff, they're bad debts. But debts for assets, like your mortgage and all that, they're good debts because you have actually invested into something that will earn you returns.
Fantastic.
So in conclusion, financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your own personal resources, which exceeds your living expenses. I will repeat that. Financial independence is the ability to live from the income of your own personal resource, which exceeds your living expenses. And your living expenses is up to you. Nobody can design that for you. Because some have got living expenses of 2,000, some 5,000, some 10,000. That depends on you. Building wealth takes discipline and hard work. A lot of what we ascribe to luck is not luck at all. It is seizing the day and accepting responsibility for our future. And one of the reasons why I love the idea of being financially free, I believe is a noble cause. For the financial worries it takes off you, the confidence that you have more than enough. It also allows you to live a life of contribution. Because when you have, excess, you will be a giver. And also, it affords you that opportunity to show your children that money is actually a servant, not a master. And these kids, they look at us, they're watching us the way we are managing all these things. And trust me, they will follow that new trend. Lastly, having said everything, we have to beware of what we become in pursuit of what we want. Don't sell out. Don't lose your soul in pursuit of wealth. Remember Judas. Judas got the money, but he hung himself because he got the money at the expense of others, not at the service to others. If it is to be, it's up to you. Financial freedom is your choice. It's your decision. My last question to you this evening is, what are you going to do? You need to take action, taking personal responsibility for your financial security. I do hope what we've shared this evening has been valuable. At least you've got one or two things that can be of benefit to us. Thank you.
Fantastic. I enjoy that. I appreciate. I'm sure people are pressing to ask you, questions. So I want to say thank you first of all for 43 wonderful minutes of pure, undiluted, selflessness. I really, really appreciate you. I'm saying this personally. Now, because one of my desires as a person, someone who watches my channel, I always say, if I manage in the course of my existence to at least affect one life for good, I think I would have done a fantastic job. And also, it's like a loop. It works in two ways. I'm putting out content. However, I have a platform that's growing. I'm also learning. If you listen to like my video that I made a few days ago, I might talk about it jokingly. Unfortunately, when I was younger, my 20s, I had nobody to say, hey man, this is what you should do with money, things like delayed gratification. I found out about delayed gratification as I was plowing through life by myself, then you start to realize I had no clue. There was a point in my life when I was younger, and I'm saying this again just to inspire someone. We're going to go into questions a bit very briefly, whereby and I remember the other day I bumped into somebody that watches my channel, and we're just talking about money and all that. Interestingly, she referenced the poetry session that we had with you, and then I was like, she was like, Phrankleen, I need to win lottery so I can move to Africa. So I laughed and she laughed. Then I asked her, I said, okay, if you win £1 million today, what plans do you have? And she went quiet. Honest. She was just like, oh yeah, I'll buy the latest BMW, blah, blah, blah. You see? And for most people, it's always get your hands on money and just spend. And this is why I say that thing is a fundamental problem that's affecting. I like what you said earlier about you will see people earning £100,000 and they will tell you they're broke. And you see somebody on maybe 30K a year and they're doing well and they're able to have, a couple of investments and they're buying lands, they're doing things. Like, for example, before the COVID lockdown, I had a friend who is a business analyst, and he was talking to me on WhatsApp, and he actually said he's broke. And I know that the dude earns £550 a day. And at first I was laughing, and I said, dude, if you're telling me that you're broke, you need to go wash your head in the river. We laughed about it, but in my mind later, and I'm thinking, wow, because I know this person has been a contractor for like straight 4 years. So the question is,
So there's a way they describe such people. You see, people with it's all about mindset. People with a broke mindset, they spend, when money comes into their hand, they spend first and then thinking they will invest with whatever is left. But we know that by the end they finish spending, nothing is left. But somebody with a financial freedom mindset, pay themselves first, invest first, and then spend what is left after. So for such a person, who I know, BA, you earn some up to like £700 per day.
Yeah.
I've actually worked as BA myself. So I've got, and this is with all humility, I've got colleagues that we work as BA in financial services, and we earning the same thing. And some we ask, how did you do it? I've got project manager even earning more than me. How did you do? It's all about mindsets. It's all about mindsets
and that discipline. So, please, have you got questions for Mrs. Adil? Let's take questions. Questions, please. Please put out your questions so I can pin them on the screen for her. Let me look. Somebody's saying thank you. Who is this? This person is from South Africa. I say thank you, ma'am. I do below you, very educative and informative session. Oh, great stuff. Right. Put up your questions. This person is saying,
I saw that question.
What kind of business someone can start with small money? I don't know how you answer that.
Okay. To be honest, for small, when you say small money, for a millionaire, when a millionaire is talking about £10,000 is a small money, right? So for somebody else, £1,000 is a small money. For some, depends on the what you're referring to as small money. What I'm trying to say is that small money is the generic, terms. So it depends on the variables that the person is looking at. As I said, we started with saving £100 every month. And what were we doing? Because that £100 could not buy real estate here, as in we couldn't use it to put down a deposit here, and neither could he buy a land in Nigeria, neither could it, build. Okay, fortunately, before we came down, we already have land, but it cannot build, say 6 or 8 blocks of flat. So what do? We started investing in stocks, into shares. Because the
Fantastic.
good thing, yeah, but you don't just dabble into stocks. You need to understand, the books,
Get
as I've said,
knowledge.
the languages of money. But the worst that could happen is that, let's say, for instance, Coca-Cola, you want to invest in Coca-Cola. Yeah, there's no village. I'm not even going to say country. There's no village that there's no Coke. And one key thing about stocks is that it's time in the market, not timing the markets. The difference is some people do have no understanding of how the stock works. They go in like a day trader and they end up losing money. But if you go into it for long term, that is time in the market, not timing the market. Timing the market is day-to-day trader. That is possible, but you just have to have the clear understanding of how that works. But if you do not, then it is better you invest for a long term in the market. So that's why we are all the person. Let's say somebody is talking about small money as a 1 million naira. Yeah, the person can invest into Sukuk, which they just finished one into FGN bond. That's I think
But
like
you said, there is something that I've personally noticed that's very common in our society. I like the fact that you keep emphasizing get knowledge. A lot of people want to circumvent the process. In fact, they want to dump money on somebody's laps and say, just make it work for me. Let me make money. They don't want to understand the market, what is
done. And for instance, like the agri fintech that you brought, to your channel some weeks ago. Again, people need to, study, see how it works. I mean, they can also invest into that. As I said, they're only calculated risk. There's no risk without investment, but they are calculated risk. As I'm using an example of the bond for FGN, and you would think, okay, for Coca-Cola to collapse, something serious must have happened. Right? Yeah.
This person, the question is on the screen. How do I overcome my inability to manage money? Once I get money, I just spend it all in a few days. What do you say to that person?
So, as I've said, you have to choose. You have to choose to be that you want to begin to work towards your own financial freedom. You have to give yourself a reason. You think you have the inability to manage the money, but you spend it all. There was something I said. I said, you look at the mirror and say the truth to yourself. Maybe you're still young. One of the major advantages that the young people have is the advantage of the age, because they still have the long term. So you have to give yourself a reason. You have to ask yourself, so everything is coming in and spending in. What if the job is no more there? What will happen? And sometimes you have to be desperate, because we take decisions in life. Being desperate is one of the issues that allows us to take decisions. You're pushed to the wall. So for that person, you don't want to be pushed to the wall before you realize that I've got to start doing something. As I said, you can start from £5, £10, £100, £50. Set it up as a direct debit, standing order. That goes out of Make sure that account is not something that you can access online. And you know what? Once you start saving, it makes you feel good, even if you have not started earning, streams of income. The fact that there's an amount somewhere. I mean, for instance, now this COVID, I know people losing job and all that. With all humility, yeah, I don't hope to lose job, but then if that happens,
you sleep well at night.
It doesn't mean the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This person said, I mean, it's not a question, but it buttresses what you've been saying. So in the US, it's possible to be broke. It's the same in the UK. Over here, people want to live in good neighborhoods because it affects where your kids go to school. So they over leverage to buy expensive houses. That's how they get broke or live paycheck to paycheck. But that's true, though.
So I want to say something about that.
Yes.
And just like people quest for good schools in US, I'm sure it's the same here, UK as well. I'm not against people buying a big house. That's the truth. As I said, you have to have a reason that is greater than your reality, bigger than you. And it's good to dream big. It's good to dream big. In as much as it is what you can, afford. Because you sending your kids to one of the best schools has ripple effect, especially in this diaspora. And that makes an example of UK. And I don't know everybody buys into the idea of private or grammar schools. My kids, they all went to grammar schools. It wasn't an easy job to do because as you're preparing them for those exams, you yourself, you're doing the exam yourself, as in it can be laboring. But what I find out is that, because I used to live in London before moving to Kenya. So what I find out is that I've got 2 boys. As I said, my first 2 kids are boys. They're young adults now, 21 and 19. And we all know how London is, the influence, the stabbing, and, all those things going on, within the Black communities. So we have to make that choice. Because apart from the academic, excellence for grammar school, also the disciplinarian aspect of it. And that's one of the things that makes us to say, okay, this is the way we want to go. So they needed to go and buy a house, within 15 minutes to such schools. It cost us more compared to if you have just decided to go and live anywhere. But as I've said, it is what we could afford. But the advantage of it, and I can say that categorically for UK. So let's say let's say you bought a house of 300,000, right? And somebody bought a house of 600,000. Obviously, the mortgage on 300 it will be lower than 600,000. But in the next 7 to 10 or 12 years, you find that the equity as well is going to be more. So for me, if you can afford it, obviously you don't want to get yourself into something that could choke you. But I believe that one of the reasons we came into this country, and for most of us, we say we want to give better life for our kids. And for me, that is not negotiable. So if I said I've left Africa and I've come here for that 6,000, kilometers, then we better do the best we can. Or so that they don't get lost in.
This person said, what books would you recommend on this topic to broaden our knowledge? Thanks for this live. Any books?
Okay, so yeah, as I've said, the creative work principle that I actually talked about is actually from my own creative work principle that I used to share in my seminars. So people that want that can get in touch. Also, books like everybody knows about I won't say everybody, at least most people knows about The Richest Man in Babylon. Most people knows about Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
The Millionaires. Because the truth is that wealth building is actually a study. It's a study. And I took my time to study it. It's a study. And as you study it, then you realize that there's actually 6 main, questions that you just need to get right. It's the old truth that has been existing over 2,000 years ago. It has not changed. So for such person, you could buy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, read it for yourself. These are ancient books, Think and Grow Rich. So many motivational books, but you could start with those 2. And if you want the creative work principle as well. The reason why I wrote the creative work principle is that they're simple, they're straightforward. So I also use that to teach the young adults, the teenagers, so that they can begin to have a clear understanding of how money works. At 52.
Right. This person said, at 52 years, is it advisable to buy or rent?
I guess that is in diaspora, right?
Yeah, 52 years is a bit dicey, isn't it?
Yeah, but honestly, for me, for what I've understood about the property, real estate in UK, and I believe it's applicable to US as well, If you have the opportunity to buy it. So far, you can afford the payment, because in the long term, it will serve you well. So say, for instance, you buy a house at 300,000, now 52, right? And the studies have shown, and I think it's about over 400 years, studies have shown that properties, especially in Britain, it might go down, but it will always still go up. And why? Because population is growing, the land is not increasing, so demand always outweighs the supply. And ever since I've been in UK, there's never been any time that government has been able to meet the budget housing that they have planned to build. So demand always outstrips supply, right?
Right.
So let's say in the next 10 years, that 300,000 property has now, by 65 or 13 years that you're about to retire, is now worth excuse me, is now worth say 400,000. And mind you, those years you're also paying down, I always encourage repayment for your residential property. Obviously, if it's buy to let, you just do that on interest only, right? So let's at the end of 10 or 12, 13 years, the mortgage balance on that property, let's say it's 200,000, and that house is now worth 400,000, and you're about to retire. There's nothing stopping you from selling that property. You sell it at 400, the market value. You have equity of 200,000. You can then move into the inner outskirts of London to buy a 200,000 property. Put 50% down. That is 100K. You have 1,000. But if you have not taken that decision to buy the property, nobody's coming to knock your door to give you that equity. And we have to be careful also of association and influence. And I will use my example. When we came into the country, we actually came in 2004 to do masters. Then we went back to Nigeria. Obviously, there was a highly skilled, migrant visa application there. We submitted when we came for our graduation. That's myself and my husband. We went back anyway. Within 2 weeks, they gave us it was approved. So we then had to come in 2006 with our kids. So we came in March. But my own understanding of property in Nigeria, because when we were students, obviously you couldn't really work like you want to work, so it was all like struggle. I couldn't wait to go back home. So when we came back, we knew that now we have full permission that we could work full-time job and look for whatever job that we want to do. So somebody advised us, and they did not mean any harm. They advised us that we should go for council house, and I'm not against people getting council house. They said, because you have three young kids, how is an opportunity for you to get onto the council property. And I asked, so this council property, when we get it, who will be the owner? They said the government, but what we will be paying will be lower. And I said, but if you buy our house, if we pay towards that will end up being our property, right? They said yes. So we decided to save and buy our own property. And then those days in 2006, it's not like they're asking for 30, 15, 20% like they do now. So we end up buying our own property and we move in there. We have few friends who went to get the council property. All right. And some even terms of, silly, you didn't take advantage of the system, blah, blah. But for my own financial literacy that I understand, if I'm paying towards somebody, that is that person's property. And I know people do buy council house after some years. I didn't really like the idea of, all these blocks of flats that the kids, the lifts, all those kind of things, and the environment and all that. So anyway, so we bought. But then that was 2006. We've actually moved out of that property. The property is rented for, it's a buy to let now. But then the equity that we add, because we live in that property for 12 years, till 2010 that we moved. So the equity on that property, because we then bought another property that we moved in. But imagine if we have not taken that decision then, nobody will come and knock our door and say, here is this equity, have it. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, that's right. These, how do we avoid overspending in this generation where advertising is backed up with artificial intelligence on our screens? I think it ties into what you were saying about discipline. Yes, like for example, people who are you're deeply immersed in social media and all this stuff. I can stand here with you now and talk about pair of shoes, Tommy Hilfiger pair of shoes. You and I have had the chat, and the moment you switch on your Instagram, your Facebook page, you start getting bombarded with all sorts of latest Tommy Hilfiger products. These things are designed to, suck you in and make you part with your money. You will see a truckload of Tommy Hilfiger products for the rest of the week until something else changes. So these are some of the traps that the wider society has designed. How do people?
So one of the things I said is that you have to be smarter than your money. Make sure your money is not smarter than you. Because if your money is smarter than you, you will work for it all the days of your life. All right? So what I do is, hardly is any money coming into my hand that does not have a name. There's an adage in Yoruba that owó tí ò lórúkọ kò sí jẹ̀díjẹ̀dí, owó tí ò yeah. So I don't do it. I do cash. So for instance now, one of the store I love, actually, I think they've actually gone bankrupt now, is Caramilla. Because they sell corporate wares, yeah. So because I love to shop at Caramilla, anytime you're online, all these gowns, tops, and everything, is coming up on the system. But let's say the money for the mortgage payment is in my account. I cannot take out of that to go and say, oh, wow, this is a beautiful gown. I could only admire and then close. You see, you have to have a reason within yourself, being disciplined. I know it's not easy, but trust me, once you start, you will just find out that all those things doesn't really matter, that you buy what you want to buy. And sometimes, obviously, as you achieve your goals, you treat yourself. One of my principles that we had as a family was that we do not buy a second car without buying a second house. And this is in exception. Some people use their car. That is what they use to go to work. So that's not a liability because it's an asset, because they maybe train doesn't get to where they work. But for us as a family, we both work in the city. We go on train. The kids' school is just about 15 minutes. So for us, one car is okay because it's just for Sundays when we go to church and shopping and visit friends and all that. So we made a decision. We will not buy a second car until we buy a second house. Obviously, the cars was growing old, and people were buying the Benz and all those, the Range and all that. And the truth is that it's not as if we could not afford it. But the question is, have we gotten a second house? And sometimes even the kids will go like, oh, Mom, you have a vision board. Yeah, you have a vision board that you're going to have range. I say, yes, it's on the vision board. But on the vision board, it's also second property. So one has to go in before the other. Do you get my point? Because there's a plan, a vision, there's a goal. Even though I know that it's a matter of me going to a dealer, put like 10% down, credit rating is okay. I will carry my range, all right? But that's not the priority. So you have to have the goals, because I know that I don't want to work up to a certain age. I have a time I want to retire. And when I retire, to be able to do what I want to do, to work because I want to work, not because I have to work. It's two different things. Yeah. And if you do not manage the financial security, you will work because you have to. I want to work because I want to, not because I have to, and be able to do what other things I want to do. And the fact that I said that I want second house, it doesn't mean I don't have real estate in Nigeria. It doesn't mean I don't have the business going on. Even my kids go, but Mom, there's a house in Nigeria. I said, no, I'm talking of Britain, as far as Britain is concerned. So it's all about discipline. I know it doesn't come easy, but once we start, we can start, engaging. And also association, the people we relate with, if you have people that are also going somewhere, you begin to learn and, begin to imbibe all these habits.
Is it okay to be selfish and take care of yourself rather than extended families? And I want to expatiate on that before you respond. I think, again, I've said this before, And I always like to put a disclaimer. Nobody's saying everybody's got family members, parents, whatever. But for me personally, where we come from, particularly as Africans, the sentiments and all the emotional blackmail is why a lot of people are unable to be able to reap enjoy the fruit of their labor. So in line with everything you've been, teaching us with about financial discipline and putting money away, some people really want to put that money away and say, okay, let me see if I can save up X amount of money this year, maybe buy a house, maybe do something profitable.
Mm.
But you have this pressure of family that keeps on draining people month after month, year after year. What do you say about that? How to strike the balance?
Okay, I do recognize that we are all from different family.
Mm,
Family background are different. Some are, I wouldn't use, okay, I would use the word, some are lucky, as in the parents, they're okay, they don't, the kids doesn't need to be spending something monthly to them because they're self-sufficiency, all right? But some family, some parents, they need that, support. I'm for your parents. You support your parents. And I know sometimes on your channel, they know parents have to, do this and do that for them. I'm talking for my own, I think I'm fortunate that I don't have parents, relying on me. But I also recognize that you've got
mm,
to do things for your parents because I believe is an honor, is a blessing. And there's no
mm,
parent that you send something to that will not appreciate the fact that, you send something to them. However, a lot of time, and I know the exception to the rule of parents, most parents want the best for their kids, and they have that understanding. I know with exception to some cases. However, the issue is with where the problem comes in is with the extended family. I
mm.
don't do things on sentiments. Because the truth is that when the ship is down, who are you going to call?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going to call? You won't call. They won't answer you. So sometimes you have to be selfish when it comes to extended family to look after yourself, to cater for yourself. That doesn't mean that you're not generous. I've talked about giving. Personally, we have people on the monthly salary that we give money to monthly.
To support.
And I also to support. I also love to give to people that genuinely needs the money.
Mm.
When I mean genuinely, because the truth is that a lot of the extended family that you're sending money to, the life they're living, you're not even living it here. That's the truth of the matter. So you need to be able to set something aside for yourself. It's whatever is left, in essence, that you can then, give. God told Abraham, I'm blessing you to be a blessing, but bless you first. You first. All right?
Mm.
Because otherwise, it's the same extended family that will count the 10 years, the 20 years, the 30 years for you. And then you'll be asking yourself, how did you get here? So you've got to look after yourself.
Fantastic.
Because they
Right.
can't force you. They can't force you. You can't be forced. You do what you want to do. And I also have one philosophy. In as much as my conscience is clear, whatever anybody wants to say.
They can
I look
say.
at my conscience, it's clear. That's it.
Fantastic. Um, One last question before we go. Is there any more question? One very good question for Mrs. Adioti, and then we'll wrap it up. One more question. Let me see. Going. Okay, let me see. This person said 45% tax rate is about half of the whole income of the year. I feel there should be a support program from the government, and if it is, it should be highlighted to encourage young investors. Again, I'll let her deal with that. People, you see, when we're talking about financial freedom, right? Like she's been
Mm.
saying, I think the mindset is important here, whereby there is no way. I think since I've been an adult, grown to be able to look after myself, I've never seen, even in Nigeria, maybe here in the UK, you've never seen where governments actually do exactly what people want them to do. Governments move the chess piece to cater for their own interest. So when people are having arguments, this never-ending arguments, we want government to do this and do this and do this for. There are certain things that I understand, but they will always do it to cater for themselves. If government give you something, they are clawing it back 5 more ways. So what would you say to people about maybe worrying about taxes? And I think it still goes back to discipline yourself with what you've got left.
Yeah, discipline yourself and honestly taking personal responsibility. As I said, you don't have you have to have that wisdom to know what you can control and what you cannot control. So work within what you can control. And what can you control? The earnings that comes into your account, into your hand. So you begin to take personal responsibility for your whole future with what comes into your hand. And forget about, because there's really nothing much you could do about government. Except maybe you're a member of parliament, you know. But if you're normal person, you take responsibility.
Before we go, can I ask respectfully that you briefly, and that's the last one, and then we call it a day, stress on the importance of having more than one stream of income and what the benefits will be for our people on the journey of our financial freedom. If you just, in few words.
Okay. As I've said, I do not believe that anyone should rely on one stream of income. When we look at us in diaspora, the major, especially this UK, the major source of income is salary. And I know people have set up different businesses, but it's not easy to set up business in the UK. So what can you do to be able to have further streams of income? You could invest into stocks. Here in UK, stocks and shares. Obviously, you need to understand what you're doing. You can also invest into bonds here in UK that will pay you interest as well. You can invest into real estate, depends on what you have as deposit. You could pair up, you could do collaboration, 3-4 people can come together to buy a buy-to-let. Rather than one person struggling, for 4 people to put 20,000 together, than one person struggling to put that 20. That is for UK. But it has to start from you, not spending all your money, putting something aside. And for some of us that actually has the dual citizenship, and as I've said, Africa, Nigeria, and Africa as a whole is the new frontier. I know we've got the challenge. I know we've got the issues. But one thing that you can never take away is that ideas that will take 2-3 years to work in the Western world, because they've done almost everything that can be done, isn't it? You take it to Africa,
This is probably my best part of this content. Reason being, I like the fact that you've given it to us facts upon facts, and you have then thrown under the spotlight to let people know that Africa is a thriving platform. Unfortunately, said about dual citizenship, it's also dangerous that a lot of our people, once it's okay, this is what I've been saying, it's okay if I'm in the West too, right? And if you're in the West and stuff, but people turn their back completely and they believe that nothing can work in Africa, which is a big lie.
Yes, because if you're blinded by the problem that we read in the news and happening, for instance, in Nigeria, you will also be blinded to the opportunities that are there, because it is the same path. It is the same path. I think it's a mistake for anybody to say, I don't want to have anything to do with Nigeria just because of all the negative news people are hearing about Nigeria. There are opportunities in that country.
It's Western propaganda.
As I said,
And also
I'm
another
talking
thing,
from
in
experience.
addition to that, another reason is I've noticed from a lot of emails and people that I talk to, if somebody decides to go to Nigeria, for example, a guy said to me, he set up a poultry business, right? And he said he set up a poultry business and he had about 13,000 birds. And then I asked him what went wrong. And he said, nothing worked. He tried to gloss over it and I didn't let him. So I said, no, what went wrong? Give me specifics. What went wrong? And he said, well, he got a piece of land. He built his pen, blah, 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 blah. And then he said, oh, I had my younger brother there and two of my cousins. And I said, there you go. The problem is not the chickens. The problem is not the eggs.
Yeah.
The execution of the idea. So I said,
yeah, the money.
You applied sentiments. Don't employ families. By now, you should be talking about making millions. So he was looking at me and said, yeah, I realize now that. So this is why some people, because they've gone to Africa, they've been dealt with negatively in a very bad way, which I empathize with them, particularly by family members. It could be siblings, cousins, even parents. They've stolen their resources. They've run the business around. They then come back to the West. They then start disseminating these falsehood that then sits in the minds of other people that are contemplating and working on the same ideas and say, oh, nothing works in that country, which is in fact a lie. This is what I've been saying.
Absolutely. So two key things for anybody that wants to, go into Africa to set things up, that are going to employ people. Number one, you do not employ who you cannot sack. Like that. If you put relative, if you need to get rid of that, obviously family issue, don't do this, da 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 da. Don't employ who you cannot sack. Secondly, do not employ somebody who wants to work on their own terms rather than your own terms.
There you go.
On their own. They want to come to work when they want to. They want to report when they want to. They want to do things on their own terms. So, those two things, guidelines.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I'm sure everybody else and people that will be watching the playback of this. On behalf of myself, can people just say thank you to Mrs. Adeoti for another wonderful session? Just say thank you in the comment section. Thank you so much, and I hope that people's brains and minds can start to work like a clock, and those that have been in the crossroads or unaware about finances we can all start making decisions and going forward and how to better our finances. Financial freedom is the only way out. It's the only way to eliminate poverty and so-called give the better future to next generation, our children and the children's children and whatnot. So thank you once again. Thank you for the I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hit the like button. Smash the subscribe button. Please share the content on the social media platform. We appreciate you. And it's a wrap from me and Mrs. Adeoti. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.